On today's show, the Cavs get their first win of the season with a victory over the Brooklyn Nets on Friday night. We'll talk about the good things we saw, the not so good things we saw, and everything else from Friday in Brooklyn on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. Thank you for making another edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen today, and thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Please make sure you're subscribed as basketball season gets started so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs, and on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button for us as we get started. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. In today's episode, brought to you by FanDuel, because right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. The Cleveland Cavaliers get a 131-124 victory over the Brooklyn Nets on Friday in Brooklyn, and there were certainly some good things to take away from this game. There were certainly some concerning things to take away from this game, and we will talk about both of those things, but I want to start with the good things, because the Cavs got a win, which probably should have been a bigger win than what it was, right? Like, they won this game by 7 points. At certain points in the game, they led by 25. There were times where they looked very, very good on both ends of the floor. I thought early on, defensively, the Cavs looked so much more connected. They looked like on Wednesday night against the Knicks, I think they looked a little unsure of themselves, maybe because they're trying some new things defensively, right? Like they're wanting to apply a little bit more ball pressure. They are playing some zone still, which they did last year with relative success, but they've got new players trying to pick up on that stuff. So there are new things that they are trying to incorporate on that end. And I thought it looked much better on Friday night against the Nets. Now, a lot of this, I do think, obviously has to be taken with a grain of salt, because Brooklyn is bad. Like, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I would imagine they're going to have the worst record in basketball when it's all said and done in April. Like, this is not a very good basketball team. They've got some solid players, like Cam Thomas had an okay night for them. He had 33 points on 12 of 23, only 3 of 10 from beyond the arc. Michael Porter Jr. had 31. He made 5 threes. Zaire Williams had 25 points. So, like, they have some good NBA players, but overall, they're just not a great basketball team. And I thought the Cavs early on, one of the things they did very well was force turnovers. The Nets had 9 turnovers in the first quarter alone, and I thought that was something that allowed the Cavs to get out and run. I thought it allowed them to get some easy offense, and I thought that was something that really got them in a groove on that end of the floor. Because one of the things that Kenny Atkinson has talked about pretty consistently this week here in New York is shot quality. Like, against the Knicks on Wednesday, the Cavs were struggling to get the looks that they wanted, both on the interior, which I don't think they got enough looks inside, and the Cavs on Wednesday, I believe, had 31 attempts inside the paint, and on Friday night, they had 35. So, like, you saw that go up a little bit. They were not getting the looks they wanted beyond the arc. Kenny Atkinson said their shot quality on Wednesday was in the 8th percentile, and I would imagine he didn't have an exact figure after this game on Friday night, but I would imagine it was much, much better, closer to where they expect it to be. And I think a lot of that started with the Cavs being able to get to the rim, right? Like, I think they did a much better job of that. And part of this is, again, Brooklyn, not a very good team, but I do think that when you are a Cavs team that is incorporating some new pieces, that is trying some new things, that is obviously not at full health, and we will talk about DeAndre Hunter because I think he's very, very close, and even Darius Garland too, coming up in the third segment today. We will touch upon those things. But when you are a Cavs team that is shorthanded right now, incorporating new players, a win is a win. And I do think that the things to be happy about in this game probably outweigh the things that you should not be so pleased about with the way the Cavs played on Friday. And Donovan Mitchell in this game, I thought was fantastic. He finished the night with 35 points on 15 shots. Like, that is incredible efficiency. Was 10 of 15 from the floor, 6 of 10 from 3, 9 of 12 from the line. Like, he did everything well. He had 5 assists. The rebounding was an issue. He only had 2. We will talk about that coming up in segment number 2, because that is absolutely a glaring issue for them. But Donovan Mitchell played like a superstar. Now, you would prefer that the Cavs don't need Donovan Mitchell to go score 35 points against the Brooklyn Nets, a team that, as I said, probably going to win fewer than 20 games this year. You would prefer that not be the case, but it was the case. And the fact that he didn't need to go out gunning to get 15 or to get 35 points, like it only took him 15 shots. I think that is obviously a really, really good sign. I thought he had a very good night from start to finish. Thought Jarrett Allen responded really well because he was not very good on Wednesday night against the New York Knicks. And I talked on Friday's show about the Cavs needing more from Jarrett Allen. And it's not all on Jarrett Allen, right? Like when you are a player like Jarrett Allen that is not capable of creating his own offense, right? Like the Cavs can't just toss Jarrett Allen the basketball and say, hey, go get buckets, man. Like just go be a bucket getter. Jarrett Allen is not that type of player. So I do think that he can at times, his stat lines can be a victim of his teammates. And like, I don't think that is any excuse for what happened on Wednesday for the way he played against the Knicks, just in the same way that I think his teammates deserve some credit for how good he played on Friday night against the Nets. Like it's never the whole story, how Jarrett Allen is individually. He is, I think, a good barometer of the team. Certainly as a high-end role player. Like when he is playing well, the Cavs are going to be very, very difficult to beat. When he's not playing very well, it's going to be tough for the Cavs to look their best. Not saying they can't win, because they can certainly win games when Jarrett doesn't have his best stuff. We've seen them do that year over year. Like nobody plays good 82 times a year. And Jarrett Allen certainly won't either. But I look at this and say, yeah, well, Jarrett had a much better game. And part of it was he got the basketball much more. Like he had 11 field goal attempts. He had 4 on Wednesday against the Knicks. That's because the Cavs were being forceful about getting him the basketball. I also thought Jarrett Allen played harder on Friday night. It's not, I don't want to be the guy that ever sits here and questions someone's effort, because I just don't think that's the right thing to do. But I don't know that Jarrett played with the right intensity or the necessary intensity on Wednesday. I thought he did on Friday. You saw the dunk that he had where he was able to take a couple of dribbles, which typically, like when Jarrett Allen dribbles, I don't think it always leads to good things. That one obviously did. I think that could be the play of the night, that dunk that he had in the first half. That was a great play. And then he had another and one that was actually pretty funny the way that play finished. But overall, I think that you have to be pretty happy with what you saw from Jarrett Allen for the most part. It was not a full, complete game. And we're going to talk about the rebounding stuff coming up in a minute. But I do think overall, you have to be happy. And I think it's fitting. And I know that plus minus on an individual game basis doesn't always tell the full story. Jarrett Allen was a plus 24 in this game in the 30 minutes that he played, and it felt like it. Like the Cavs felt like they were a better team with Jarrett Allen on the floor on Friday night. He was a problem for the Nets. They didn't have an answer for him, and that certainly is a very, very good thing for them. Two other guys I want to highlight in the first segment that I thought were awesome. Sam Merrill, another one. So he went 6 of 10 from beyond the arc. He's hit 11 threes in his first 2 games. That is the most threes that any Cavs player in history has hit in the first 2 games of the season. Surpasses Kyrie Irving and Max Strus had the record before. Sam Merrill passes that. I think he hit his first 5 or maybe 5 of his first 7. Like he was just on point early on. I think he's had a great start to the year. Obviously the numbers bear that too, but I think that he's doing more than just shooting, right? I think he's been a solid defender, and I think he will always be a solid defender that doesn't necessarily get the credit that he deserves on that end of the floor. But I think that he's been good in a lot of different aspects of things, because I do think the Cavs are asking him to do more. Like, it's not just that he went out and hit 6 threes. It's not just that he went out and scored 22 points, but it's also he had 5 assists, right? Because right now with no Darius Garland, with no Max Strus, the Cavs are a little short on playmaking. They need guys that can help create for others. And no one's going to be asking Sam Merrill to go out there and, hey, run 20 pick and rolls a night. No one's ever going to ask him to do that. But I do think that he's a good enough secondary creator that he can help guys out in that realm. And seeing him get to 5 assists in this game, I thought was pretty fitting. Like, I thought he looked very good with the basketball in his hands, and that I think is certainly a positive to take away from his game. And then the other guy I wanted to highlight in this first segment was Craig Porter Jr., who I did not think was great against the New York Knicks. He only played one stint on Wednesday night. It was in the first half. He played about 6 minutes. I actually have that box score here just to see exactly what he did in that game against the Knicks, but he played just under 7 minutes. He had 2 points, was a -9, took 2 shots, 2 points, 1 assist. That was it. Like, he was just not very good, not super productive against the Knicks, but against the Nets, he played 14 and a half minutes. He had 14 points, 6 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 2 from beyond the arc, had 2 boards, 2 assists. I think you should be very happy with what you saw from Craig Porter Jr. in this game. Like, if the Cavs can get in, he's not going to go 6 of 7 every night. He's not going to be this super efficient guy that shoots 65% from the floor. But if they can get efforts similar to what they got from Craig Porter Jr. on Friday night consistently, again, not necessarily the numbers thing. Like, this is going to be an outlier game as far as statistics go. But I do think if they can get this sort of impact from him, they're going to be very, very happy. And I think it's going to solve a lot of issues, because the Cavs right now have to rely on some young guards in some way, shape, or form between Craig Porter Jr. and between Tyrese Proctor. And Proctor wasn't very good on Friday night. Kenny Atkinson said, it was kind of a welcome to the NBA moment, playing on Wednesday night, having a day off, and then having to play an NBA game just, 1 day later, because in college, you typically get a couple of days off between games. So this was something for him that Kenny said he looked a little weary, looked a little tired, like just an expected bump in the road for a rookie. Don't think it's anything to be concerned about, but they need this type of output from those guys while Darius Garland's out. They're going to need this type of output from those guys on nights when Lonzo Ball doesn't play. Like Lonzo Ball, the Cavs have a back-to-back tomorrow and then Monday. Lonzo Ball is going to play in one of those games. He's not going to play in the other one of those games. So they're going to need this sort of output from their reserve guards, because until Darius Garland gets back, which I do think will be sooner than later, they need to rely on some role players to fill in some of the cracks right there. Now, as I said, there were a lot of good things. There were some not so good things too. We're going to talk about those next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's show is also brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. So every time, this is how it works. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, which we've had a couple of times so far, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff that you're actually going to want, right? Like sometimes those giveaways, I don't really care about that. No, not this. This is sick. DoorDash has you covered for late night highlights, last minute watch parties, and double OT, which we've had a bunch of so far, fuel up. So the next time someone goes off for 50, use the promo code NBA50, that is NBA50, the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Thank you again for making this weekend edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And as I mentioned, there was a lot of good things to take away from the game on Friday in Brooklyn for the Cavs, but there were some bad things as well, because the Cavs led this game by as many as 25 points. They were up, I believe their largest lead was 83-58 in the third quarter. And the third quarter started. They went on a 9-0 run. It felt like they really took control of the game after sort of struggling at times in the first half. Like the first quarter was good. The second quarter I didn't think was quite as good. And then the third quarter offensively was great. Like they scored 45 points in the third quarter. They started off on a 9-0 run. Sam Merrill hit a couple of threes in that run. Jalen Tyson hit a three in that run. And it looked like the Cavs were in firm control. And I was sitting in my seat at Barclays Center. I was like, oh yeah, this is the Cavs. And part of me was thinking, well, it's also the Nets, but most of me was thinking, yeah, the Cavs are a really good basketball team who just didn't have a great opening tonight against the Knicks, and that sort of things happen. And it's really not that big of a deal. And then the Cavs struggled the rest of the way. Like from that point on, they really struggled defensively. They really struggled with the rebounding side of things. They didn't have a good fourth quarter offensively. And ultimately, they won the game. And that's the thing that matters. Like, we are not going to be sitting here on April, whatever day the playoffs start, and talking about, you know what? Remember that game on October 24th against the Nets when they almost blew that lead? Like, that's not going to be a thing. Ultimately, them blowing the lead should be something that's inconsequential as long as they learn from it. That is the important part here, that they learn from this, because this is something. Blowing this sort of lead to a team of Brooklyn's caliber is an unacceptable thing for a championship caliber team. It is. The Cavs should never have been in a close game on Friday night. When they have a 25-point lead, that should go to 30 against a team like the Nets. Really, in any game. Like, if you're good enough to get up, and I know that, anything can kind of happen on any night in the NBA, but if you're good enough to go up by 25 points on somebody, you're good enough to go up by 30 points on somebody. And the Cavs, for the first, I don't know how many minutes you want to call it, the first 30 minutes of this game were so much better than the Nets. And then for the rest of the game, the Nets were the better team. And it almost cost the Cavs. Like, the Nets never actually took the lead. They never led in this game. The Cavs led from start to finish. It was a wire-to-wire win, but it doesn't feel like it because the Cavs, as I said, led by 25, and Brooklyn brought it all the way back to 1 point in the fourth quarter with like 3 or 4 minutes left. They cut it all the way down to 1. And that is something that cannot happen. And I understand that the Cavs are trying to figure some things out with lineups right now, and they are trying to figure things out with lineups, and they will get it figured out at a certain point. This was, to me, certainly an example of some of the growing pains that they're going through. But there are also some things that you look at and just say, you know what, even with growing pains, that's not something that can happen. And the biggest thing to me is the rebounding battle. Because so far the Cavs have not, and small sample size, which everything is 2 games into the season. But so far the Cavs have been a bad rebounding team. Like I thought they struggled on the boards against the Knicks on Wednesday, and they were out rebounded on Friday by the Nets. And when you score 131 points, like, yes, there are not a ton of offensive rebounding opportunities when you shoot 53%. So I get that, because the Nets, took more field goal attempts, which part of it, that was Brooklyn only took 7 free throws and the Cavs took 35 free throws in this game. So I do get that part of it. Like, the possession battle was sort of close, but that is something that Kenny Atkinson talks about all the time, which, is turnovers, is offensive rebounds. Basically, the possession battle is you take the number of free throws that you take, and I don't know if you want to cut it in half exactly, because there are and ones, factored into that and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't always work out exactly right, but add that figure to the number of field goal attempts that you have, and that's sort of the possession battle. And the Cavs lost it in the second half. In the second half, Brooklyn had 10 more field goal attempts. Now, again, part of that was because the Cavs took 18 free throws and the Nets took 2 free throws. So that is part of that. But Brooklyn took 51 field goal attempts. The Cavs took 41. Brooklyn shot 58% from the field in the second half. Brooklyn had 8 offensive rebounds in the second half. Those things cannot happen. And yes, the Nets got hot from 3, and that's going to happen. And some of those were tough shots. Some of them were defensive lapses. But the Nets do, for them not being a good team, which I have said several times here, for them not being a good team, they've got guys that are capable, right? Like, Cam Thomas is capable of putting points up. Like, he's capable of doing that. I don't know how many other things he's capable of doing, but I know he's capable of doing that. Michael Porter Jr. is capable of getting hot from beyond the arc. He hit 3 threes in the second half. He had 17 of his 31 points in the second half. He's capable of doing that. And that is a guy that is an NBA champion. And, who he is as a player right now is a different discussion for a different podcast. But allowing this Nets team to climb back into this game should be something that I think should tick off the Cavs. And I believe it did. Like being in the locker room after the game, hearing what Donovan Mitchell had to say about it, where he basically called it unacceptable and something that cannot happen. And, acknowledging some of the young guys and some of the new pieces, but the Cavs also have a bunch of guys that were on a 64-win team last year. Like it's not all young guys. It's not all new pieces. There are a lot of guys on this roster that, were there before. And that is something that just should not happen. This should not be something I have to talk about on a Friday night, because the Cavs should have won this game by 30 points. And instead, it was a game where they had to make free throws late. It was a game where they needed to make plays down the stretch. And sure, that can be spun as a positive because the Cavs need to learn to close out close games. But also look at what happened last year. Look at what happened in the playoffs against the Pacers. Look at how game 2 ended in that series. And Donovan Mitchell referenced that game specifically in one of his post-game answers on Friday night. He talked about game 2 against the Pacers. That is something that I think is stuck with them, and they need to be better closing out games. And closing out games is not just, hey, we're up by 5 with 90 seconds left. Closing out games would have been closing this one out in the third quarter. When they're up by 25 points in the third quarter, if they're up by 30 going into the fourth, that game's closed out. But instead, they allowed the Nets to have life. And that counts as closing out a game, or not closing out a game, I guess I should say. That is part of it. You don't just close out games with under 2 minutes left. Now, some of them have more pressure than others. Like there is, of course, more pressure trying to close out a game with 2 minutes remaining as opposed to having a 27-point lead and really stepping on a team's throat. But they're both closing out games. And technically, the Cavs close this one out. They close out a close game. Like they got a win that this will count as a clutch time win, which is absurd because they led by 25. But I do think that it would have been better for them to just close the game out, lead by 30 in the fourth, get some extra minutes for guys like Tyrese Proctor, get Naquan Tomlin in the game, Luke Travers, Thomas Bryant could have made his Cavs debut. Like those were things when the Cavs took that lead. I thought, okay, we're going to see Thomas Bryant. Very interested to see how Naquan Tomlin looks, get a little bit of an extended look at Tyrese Proctor, all good things. And then they couldn't get stops and they couldn't score enough. So I think that is ultimately the worst part of this game. But overall, they hung on to win. And that is the thing that matters the most. Now, I talked about them being shorthanded. Obviously, they did not have Darius Garland. Obviously, no Max Strus. He won't be back for a while. Didn't have DeAndre Hunter either. But I do think DeAndre Hunter is very close. And I don't think Darius Garland is too far off either. So we're going to talk about those two next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little bit of extra support. And that is where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rugiet.com. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. Again, Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. And again, do not forget that code LockedOnNBA so that they know we sent you. Rugiet. Stop making excuses and start making moves. Today's show also brought to you by FanDuel. NFL season is here. We're deep into the NFL season at this point, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. If you want to spice up your Sundays, maybe watching the Cleveland Browns on Sunday before you're checking out the Cavs game Sunday night. The Browns on the road in New England against the Patriots. It might get ugly. The Patriots are good. The Browns are not. The Patriots are 7-point favorites in Foxborough. I think the Patriots cover that one. Browns coming off a win. They're not wearing the brown helmets, I don't think. They're 2-0 in the brown helmets, 0-5 in the orange helmets. I don't like the way the brown helmets look, but the results are the results. I don't know. Just worth thinking about. I don't think they're wearing the brown helmets this week, though. So I would, because of that, probably take the Patriots minus a point. Pains me to say it, but that's where I'm at this week. And you can do the same with FanDuel. So if you want $300 in bonus bets, what you need to do, head to FanDuel.com. There's FanDuel.com. Pick a bet, put down $5, win that bet, and then $300 in bonus bets will be yours. So visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube. And if you are watching right now, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. DeAndre Hunter did not play in the game on Friday night. He was listed as questionable again with a knee contusion, which of course was suffered over 10 days ago at this point in the Cavs' final preseason game against the Detroit Pistons. I think Hunter's very close. As I talked about on Friday's episode, he went through a very lengthy shooting workout after practice on Thursday. And on Friday, prior to the game, he came out for pregame warmups. And when I say pregame warmups, I'm not talking like layup lines 10 minutes before the game. The way things work, if you've not been to an NBA game or if you've not been to an NBA game early, is individual players have scheduled warm-up times. They're listed and they typically don't change. So like, for instance, Donovan Mitchell typically will take the floor with about 60 minutes on the clock to go through an individual warm-up. And Cavs associate head coach Johnny Bryant is the one that puts him through his warm-up. Evan Mobley typically is the last one to come out. He comes out with about 50 minutes on the clock, and those guys will go through a 15 to 20-minute individual warm-up separately with, like, it's a one-on-one warm-up with a coach. DeAndre Hunter has his own warm-up time. Darius Garland actually went through his own pregame warm-up. We'll talk about him in just a second. But it starts at about 2.5 hours before the game. Typically, it's with young guys, right? Like on Friday, the first two for a more extended, more intense pregame warm-up, Luke Travers, Naquan Tomlin, because those guys not really expected to play. So they're getting their actual work in, where the closer you get to game time, the more geared it is towards, hey, we have to get ready for the game versus we're trying to get better right now. But on Friday night, DeAndre Hunter came out for his warm-up, and it raised a little bit of an eyebrow because when I was at shoot-around on Friday, Hunter was there, but Jalen Tyson was still wearing a starter's jersey, and I didn't know what DeAndre Hunter went through at shoot-around. I did see him after shoot-around, though, and he went through a very intense, it's called a stay ready game, where basically it's deep reserves, bench players, sometimes an assistant coach or two will take part depending on who's playing in it, but it's for guys to stay in shape, right? Like Luke Travers, not expected to get a lot of minutes. Thomas Bryant, not expected to get a lot of minutes. Those guys will always play in the stay ready game. And the stay ready game on Friday was a 3-on-3 game. It featured DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland, Luke Travers, Naquan Tomlin, Thomas Bryant, and one of the Cavs' assistant video coordinators. And it was a very intense workout. And I thought Hunter moved around very well in it. I thought Darius Garland moved around very well in it. And I would be very surprised now at this point if DeAndre Hunter does not play in one of the next two games. Is he going to make his debut on Sunday against Milwaukee? I think it's possible. Is he going to make his debut on Monday against the Detroit Pistons? I think that's possible too. But I do think DeAndre Hunter is very close to a return. Again, as I've talked about, I don't think this is something to be overly concerned about. I think the Cavs are going to err on the side of caution with just about every injury this year, especially early in the season. There's nothing to gain by playing DeAndre Hunter if he's in any pain whatsoever in the month of October. There's nothing to gain right now by playing Darius Garland. Those guys will be on the floor soon. I think Garland probably, as I have said the entire time I've been talking about this, I think at some point in November, he makes his debut. With how he has looked, recently, from what I've seen, I don't think that we're far off. Like, I would bet the front half of November, provided that there's no setbacks for Darius Garland. I think he's looked good in the workouts that I've seen so far, and I don't think he's too far away from suiting up for the Cavs. So that is certainly a good sign as well. But ultimately, the Cavs get a win on Friday night. They move to 1-1 on the season. Their home opener set for Sunday, 6 o'clock, Rocket Arena, against the Milwaukee Bucks. As you know, I will have you covered here. I will have you covered over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. You can follow me on social media at Real D Cunningham as well. And make sure that you're subscribed to Locked on Cavs, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And please, if you're watching the show on YouTube, as we get out of here, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. And I will